one day I got a phone call off Helmut when I was, I think it was in Formula BMW or Formula Renault, where he asked me to go and look at this Thai kid who's karting. And it was Alex was cadet karting at Kim Bolton. I'd say he's probably 10 or 11. And obviously at that time, I didn't know, I'd sort of left karting. I was a Red Bull junior, and obviously I'd followed bits of it, but I was out of touch. And I remember Alex just won at Kim Bolton pretty easily, to be honest, against the grid of cadets. And since then, I've obviously known Alex and Minky and Aitor, and brilliant family, to be honest. And actually, his little brother Luca did his work experience week here last summer, so he brings good cupcakes if you ever need.
Okay, they're all in identical cars on a perfectly balanced set of tyres, one lap. Lando, Alex, Albon and George, who's the quicker of the three?
Do you know, I wouldn't want to say, because I like all three of them, and all three of them are good mates. I would say, though, it would be quite fun to see all three of them in a sort of freeway race, whether that be esports, an F3 car and a go-kart, as a sort of best of three.
F3 car. Speaking of Alex's family, how's Nirei Fukuzumi getting on?
Yeah, do you know, so Nirei, they're like two peas in a pod, aren't they, Alex and Nirei? So I went to the Super Formula race end of last year for Yuri's sort of first go in Super Formula with Mugen, just to sort of have a look around, help Mugen a bit, and almost be a bit of a fan seeing how Yuri got on. And it was great to see Nirei, because he obviously had that tough year with Arden in GP2, and then Arden sort of sold to HWA, I think, and Nirei sort of got shipped back to Japan with Honda, but he almost has re-established himself out in Japan. Obviously his teammate was who's the very Yamamoto, who obviously is the man in Super Formula, and I think Nirei did a pretty good job against him considering his experience. So hopefully, well, a lot of people felt like Nirei deserved another go, didn't he, in Europe?
Yeah, top man. I mean, lots of good Japanese drivers coming along, though, aren't there? There's about 7 or 8 now. I think you could say these guys definitely have real potential. It's amazing.
I think so. I mean, we had young Yuki did Macau for us, and he might hate me for saying this, other than him crashing a few times, unfortunately, it was just so clear to see how quick he was. You know, he did the test in Valencia with us, and you know, you had to keep reminding him to put the lap together, but everything's within Yuki to be sensational. And I have to say, a lot of people sort of were questioning the step up from F3 to F2 so quickly, but obviously the end of season test last year with Carlin, I sort of was on the other side of the garage from an arm's length watching Nikita test, and it was clear to see, you know, Yuki's going to make that step up without problems. And as you and I know, Helmut sees things that the rest of us don't, so I'm sure he's made the right choice. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you about Helmut, because obviously you know him well. Did you get, before we get on to what you think about Helmut and the job he's done, did you actually get the Helmut sacking treatment and brought into the headmaster's study when you lost your deal with them, or not?
To be honest, it's that long ago. I think I have nothing but good things to say about Helmut, and not just because I need to both smoke up people's arse. He treated me very fairly. I had a really good first year in Formula BMW. I was meant to jump up the ladder a bit quicker then, and sort of an F3 program that was coming with a manufacturer got delayed a year, and I ended up last minute, December the 21st, getting thrown into Eurocup, and things just didn't work out for me. But one thing I'd say is I always had a good relationship with Helmut, and I kind of, it's stupid, isn't it? When you're a young driver, you know, the fearful stories you hear of him making the phone call, ringing you early in the morning, this stuff. I actually enjoyed it, because to me, it was no different to when I was karting with Tony Kart, with the big boss there, Mr. Rabatzi. You know, you've got to respect these guys. They get the job done and they get the best out of you. And I think you can't argue that Helmut's talent program has delivered much more than anyone else is in F1. And I think it's weird now for me being on the other side of the fence, sort of dealing with him, with his young drivers, having been a young Red Bull driver. You know, I sort of had a lot of fun of that with Yuri, because obviously, you know, Helmut's job is to be tough on him, and my job as the team is to sort of get the best out of him. And it's really enjoyable, because I think their driver program, you can't fault it. It always does get the right talented guys to F1.
Well, Scott Speed aside.
Yeah.
Logan Sargeant, there are quite a few good young Americans out there, but he's potentially one that might make it through to Formula One. Logan?
Well, I think he's the only decent one.
Do you?
No disrespect, but I think he's done the karting properly. He's done, you know, Formula 4, Formula Renault properly. And I think he's got a good group behind him. I think Harry and Gary, who manage him, you know, they seem to push him in the right directions. There is this big fascination with getting an American to F1, but I almost laugh at it, because American fans, you know, it's IndyCar and NASCAR. They don't, bit bad to say it, but I think probably it's a shame to not have someone like Joseph Newgarden sort of mentioned to have a go at F1, given what he's doing in IndyCar, you know. Do you know what? I see Mick almost as a little brother, because him and Nikita karted together the whole time. Obviously, being part of the Tony Kart family myself, Mick was sort of there. So I think we ate dinner together almost for 3 years, nearly every other week. So I love Mick to bits, and I think he's exceptional. And I think, to be fair to him, he doesn't get enough credit. You know, he won Formula 3. He went into F2 last year, like Nikita, against a field which had, you know, guys in it who've done almost 5 years of F2. I mean, it's ridiculous, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, there was no shame in those guys finishing 8th or 10th when 6 guys in front of them are in their 5th year in a category. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop the keyboard warriors, does it, on social media? But no, Mick's good. And I have to say, I've never got to work with him in car racing, because obviously he's always been in other teams and I've been against him. But, you know, you can see from the outside how hard he applies himself and those traits that, you know, are synonymous with the Schumacher name. Yeah.